Hey guys, Preacher Truth, and I wanted to bring you a video. I've had several people ask about a rifle that we've been using in some of the videos for the long range target shooting. If you consider it long range, all I have here is 375 yards, but to some of you that is long range. But anyway, had several people ask about it and thought I'd just do a review on it. Not quite finished with it. It's been a project gun for me, and so it's still a work in progress. But to show you where we're at right now, this is a Savage Model 10 PC with an 18-inch barrel, and let me see if I can get some of this into the camera and you stop looking at my ugly mug. But I just wanted to go over some of the details of this rifle for you, and some of you guys may be looking at buying a bolt gun, and maybe this will come in handy for you, some considerations. When I bought this rifle, I had the money to buy a Remington 700 or basically just about any stock standard factory bolt gun that I wanted. I chose the Savage not because of I'm hung up on Savage. I own some others and like them all. Actually, this is probably I believe this is the first bolt Savage that I've owned. But I bought it because of what the factory includes with the gun from the factory. So things such as the accu-stock, is the way they were calling it, the accu-stock, and the accu-trigger, which is some things that a lot of people would first things they want to change on a rifle when they get it, because of the factory's offerings are just not up to par as some of the aftermarkets that you can get. And I just thought, well, the stock Savage comes with some pretty good improvements already, and it may be things that I don't have to replace. So anyway, I've had this gun now for a while, and I've got about 500 rounds through it, and I think I can talk to the good and the bad points, at least to what I've seen so far, if some of you are out there looking, shopping, maybe thinking about buying something similar. So let's go over this. As I mentioned, Savage PC10, that's the model. Comes with an 18-inch heavy bull barrel. It's got R5 button rifling, which is superb. It's got, this one is a 1 in 10 twist, which I found works well. I'm actually running 175 grain burgers through it, and having no trouble at all. It seems to be doing really well. I've got, like I said, I've got about 500 rounds through it. This particular gun has never shot a factory round. I've always I've hand loaded it for it from day one, and it's never had a factory bullet put in it. But it does do good. I did break the rifle in according to the factory specs, and actually a little bit beyond. The shoot once, clean once, shoot once, clean once for the first 10 shots, and then clean every 5 after that, and then every 10 after that, and so on and so forth. I did that pretty much to the T, and I don't know, does it make a difference or not? I don't know, but if you got that kind of money to invest in a rifle, why take the chance? Give it every opportunity that you can for it to do well, so it doesn't take much trouble to break one in properly. Now, I just got this thing on the scales. I think Savage advertises this rifle, bare bones, from them to be about 7 pounds, 7.5 pounds, something like that. I weighed it as it sits with bipod, muzzle brake, the optics, the mount, even the cheek rest pad and everything, and it weighs 11.3 pounds the way it sits, which is not too bad. It's probably lightweight for a target gun, so probably a little heavy for some people to be a hunting gun. But I find the weight helps a little bit with the long range shooting. It seems to do real well, and I don't plan on hiking a lot with it, so it does not a big deal for it to weigh that much to me. Now, from the factory, it comes with this matte black finish. Let's see if I can show you that a little bit better in the maybe up on the barrel section. But they've done a real good job. I haven't seen any problems with the finish whatsoever. It seems, as a matter of fact, I haven't even cleaned this from the last time I had it out shooting, and no oil or nothing on it, and it seems to be doing well. Doesn't seem to be having any rust spots on it. It's a really nice finish the way it is. However, I do plan to paint this gun. Most of my guns have been painted, and so I'll probably do the same way with this one after I get done tweaking it to my liking. Now, let's start off with the stock itself. Savage has been known or had a history of making terrible stocks for their guns, and most people just stayed away from Savage because the stocks were so awful. But I'll tell you something, at least for this particular rifle, this accu-stock that they have come out with now, I'm telling you what, this thing is superb. I don't have the time, or I don't want to go through the trouble of taking the action out of the stock to show you the bedding, but it comes with a full-length bedding block. It starts way back here and comes all the way up to the front of the stock. It's a full length, and it's like a V-block at the action. So when you tighten those action screws up, it sinks it down into that V-block. Of course, it's got a a recoil lug also right in this area, and that fits very tight as well, and it just seems to be perfect. I actually, when I was modifying the stock, and you can see some of that here, this portion here has all been cut out by me to make like a thumb loop, and then all this was added on, and I just used fiberglass body filler to do that. Something anybody could do with a little know-how and time. But I actually noticed when we had that, I had the action out of it, and I thought, well, you know, while I have this body filler here, I'm gonna go ahead and bed this thing, and that way, you know, to get it just as tight as possible. And so we taped everything off and put the filler in there and squeezed that action down in there right quick. And I tell you what, there wasn't room for it. The action is bedded so well from the factory. I actually took all the filler back out. It squeezed out everywhere. It wasn't enough left to really do any good, so I just done without it. So it's actually just the way it came from the factory as far as that goes. It does have a good recoil lug on it. It's a free floating barrel. I'll see if I can show you the clearances there on that, and they allow ample clearance. I've actually went in and added these rails, one here on the side for a light that I run, then one on the bottom for the bipod, and there's plenty of room in there for the screws to hold those rails and still have the barrel free floated by a pretty good margin. So it's really well done. One thing I do like about it, the stock it's extremely lightweight from the factory. Most of the aftermarket stocks you get that people are looking for today, they're so heavy, and I wanted to keep this gun light because I probably will hunt with it some, and so I don't want to lug a 20-pound rifle down through the woods, you know. The one hit I would say for it is it's not a big deal for me because I'm gonna paint it anyway, but this stock, even though it looks so nice with that digital camo pattern on it, you know, everybody's like, wow, that looks sweet. Well, it does look sweet, and I like the pattern and the color, but the problem with it, I don't know what type of finish this is, but everything sticks to it. If you got dirty hands, you take it out shooting, it's going to stain it, and it just, you know, doesn't clean off well. So I mean, if you just love that color of the stock, just be prepared for that. Where you're going to be handling it most of the time will probably end up becoming stained to the point where it won't come off. And the finish itself is pretty thin on the stock itself as well. Of course, I mean, it's all, you know, polymer, so it's not like it's going to rust or warp or anything like that. But the finish is fairly thin. Now let's go to the magazine. It has a detachable mag. You can squeeze 4 rounds into this thing, and it's a pretty well made magazine. It's mostly made out of metal. It has a plastic bottom plate, but it's actually just a cover over, and there's metal in there, but it's made real well, metal feed lips and everything. One hit I would give it, like I said, it does hold 4 rounds if you top it completely off, but if you do throw 4 rounds into it, and that's of course in the 308 model, I don't know about the other models, other calibers may be different, but if you top it off completely, it's extremely hard to get it seated into the rifle, especially, I mean, if you got the bolt closed, almost impossible to get it seated in. But I have noticed sometimes when we top it completely off, trying to strip that first round off is a pain in the rump. and then I have been firing it sometimes and think that I have it seated, and after that first shot, go to bolt another round in, and the mag's done loosened up to the point it won't pick up that second round because I didn't have it seated. But that's just it's not really a dig at them, it's just a thing you need to be aware of if you decide to put that many into it. One other thing I wish they would have done differently about the magazine, and it's probably fine if you're running stock ammo, but if you're hand loading and you're trying to push those bullets just as long as you can to seat them on the lands, the 175 burgers I'm running like to be actually touching the lands on the rifling of the chamber, and so you have to extend that projectile out of the case right much. And to do that, the magazine is almost not long enough. Actually, I would suggest it's probably not long enough. I'm actually not. I don't have mine seated on the lands because of that. I didn't want to have the magazine not be able to hold the round. So I've got them basically as long as I can. Now let's go to this trigger, because I'm gonna tell you what. This is the one part of this rifle that just tickled me when I got this thing and started playing around with it a little bit. It is a factory accu-trigger, comes from Savage, and I'm gonna tell you right now, this is the best, bar none, factory trigger I have ever felt. Now I'm not saying it's the best one out there, it's the best one I have felt from the factory. It is adjustable. I think they claim it can be adjusted down to 2 pounds. But I'll tell you what, you can actually take it lower than that. I had it set at 8 ounces at one time, and however, being that low, that light, I did notice a few issues with it not wanting to stay engaged while you were chambering your next round. So I did stiffen it up just a little bit to make it more reliable. But it is very, very adjustable. It is very crisp, and it is clean when it breaks. Now, one thing you have to do is, you notice it has this sear disconnect little paddle here. Get the bolt up out of the way so you can see it. A little seared like a Glock, just like a Glock. And that is just a sear disconnect so that you can lighten that trigger up and still be safe about it. But if you tend to pull your trigger to one side or the other, it'll lock. And I'll see if I can mimic that. I'm going to push it hard to one side. Well, it actually went off. Let's see if I can pull it maybe and make it do it. No, it done it that way too. My son had an issue with it when pulling it to one side. No, it's still doing it. But if you don't pull straight back, sometimes it will click but no bang. And what's happened is the sear disconnect is still engaging, but the trigger's going off. And so you have to recock it, and that's just as simple as lifting the bolt, putting it right back down. You've recocked it. But anyway, very nice trigger, but it does need to be pulled straight back. You should be doing that anyway. I guess it's a training trigger. It teaches you to do it correctly. All right, next let's move on to the barrel itself. 18-inch heavy bull barrel, and it measures 0.75 at this point right here at the muzzle. So it's 3/4 of an inch. Now it's a factory threaded barrel, and it comes with a muzzle cap, and I have installed this muzzle brake on it when I got it. And I think this is a DPMS muzzle brake. I just wanted to put something on there to protect that crown. They did a great job when they done the crown from the factory, and I wanted to make sure that I protected it, because as you know, that's where your accuracy is. If your crown's messed up, you're not going to get much accuracy out of it at all. Now, one thing I would say about the barrel that I wish they would do a little better. Of course, I'm a little finicky about this because this is a factory gun. They have to set this thing up for SAMI specs to run factory ammunition, and quite frankly, some of that ammunition is out of spec sometimes. A little bit larger, a little bit smaller, whatever it may be, and so the chamber itself has to be able to chamber all those rounds. Well, in order to do that, you have to loosen that chamber up to the largest round that it may encounter. But by doing that, when you start hand loading and making very precise rounds for it, they're going to have to be enlarged to the point where the brass will expand so much just to meet the chamber walls that your brass will not last you very long. And that's one thing I've noticed with this one. I've got some brass I've only loaded 3 or 4 times, and the brass is starting to flow so much that I can't even reload them because of the primer pockets. The necks are fine, the body of the cases are fine, but the primer pockets have gotten so loose. And what I would like to do, since Savage does put these together with a barrel nut, you can't really see it, the new style, like this one's a smooth nut, but there's a barrel nut right there. Get something to point with here. Barrel nut right here to help attach that barrel to the action. And my plan is to take this to a gunsmith that's local here that has a machine shop, and have him recut this and basically just set the barrel back a few thousandths in order to tighten that whole chamber up and tighten everything up. Shouldn't be a big job, and that should help out with the brass and also the accuracy as well. Now let's move on to the bolt. The bolt body I have changed. This body, this fluted body, it doesn't come like that. It comes with just a standard flat black Savage bolt, which is fine. It works okay. However, the tolerances are not that great. It is a little bit loose. This one you see in here now is from PTG. They make a body replacement, and that's the shiny part that you're looking at. Everything else is still Savage factory. The bolt head, the bolt handle, the internals, the firing pin, the springs, everything else is stock factory Savage parts. Just the body itself. Now, one thing they do, it does allow you, the body is a little bit larger than factory, so it tightens the tolerances up a little bit and does help it to have a little bit more fluid of an action. I noticed with the factory Savage action, it wasn't real smooth. When you come all the way back, sometimes it would hang a little bit, where this one it corrected that completely. I believe that part was about 50 some bucks, I think, something like that, from Midway, and a great addition to this rifle. I would recommend it. It does have one thing Savage is doing. They had this floating bolt head, which is, they're telling us at least, eliminates the issue with having to have it trued. And whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, but I do know this: it does hold tight groups, and it does seem to work really well. Now the bolt handle, you've probably been looking at this, and that's still a factory handle. If you look real close at my engineering work there, you'll see that this is a factory handle down to about this point, and then I've actually just welded it on. And then what this is here is a 3/4 inch iron pipe plug, and I have ground it down. You can see the hollowed part there. Or you could use this, actually maybe, I think I may have actually used a coupling. Well, anyway, I welded that on, and then I took my Demerol tool and cut some grooves around it just for looks and traction. And it still hadn't really been painted yet, but when I paint that, I'll probably smooth those out a little bit more. But I like the way that is too. It extends it out, it gives you a little bit more leverage, and we actually did bend the bolt handle right in this area, probably about 15 to 20 degrees, just to get it to lay down next to the rifle so it wouldn't be sticking out so far. Alright, let's move on. Bipod. Boy howdy, do I have something to say about this bipod. This thing is awesome. Let me see if I can get this close enough to where you can actually see it. Can you see that? It's an Atlas bipod. Now this thing is awesome as far as I'm concerned. I've never had one until now, and it is pricey, I have to say that, but this thing is so versatile and adjustable and solid. You just to adjust it, you just grab it and pull these little locking links down, and then just pull the bipod down however you want. You let go, it releases. There's little ball detents in there will catch it, and they can swivel. And again, to put it up, you just push it back up. It does swivel, and this one is mounted on a Picatinny rail, and it has a quick detach mechanism, just a little throw lever there that you can take it on and off. I don't really use that. I leave it on the rifle. I don't hardly ever use it at all. But here's what I'm talking about adjustability. This thing, you know, of course it extends, but these little buttons here will allow you to swivel the legs forward, or you can bring them back at 45-degree angles, front or rear. Of course you can lock it at 90 degrees as well. But the thing is just awesome. Going when you're shooting prone position, a lot of times you'll be too high to be comfortable, and you can adjust those things on a 45-degree forward and get the rifle right much lower to the ground. And also, and I think it helps to eliminate having to preload your bipod when you're taking long-range shots, because the bipod is no longer standing the rifle up under recoil. The bipod just slides back a little bit because it's already canted forward, and it really works well. I like the bipod. I wish I had more of them. I just can't afford it. Now the scope. Let's move on to the scope. This is a Vortex Viper 4-16 by 50 millimeter. It does have, it come with, and it has the sun protector, sunscreen, or whatever you want to call it there. And it has, this is the Vortex cover on the front. I really like the cover that Vortex offers because the cap actually lays down flat. I hate those ones that stand up like that and then under recoil they just bouncing all over the place. I really like that one that lays down flat like that. The rear cap is a Butler Creek. I don't like it. The only reason I went with it is because at the time the place I was ordering it from was out of stock on the Vortex rear cap covers. But I haven't owned one, but I think I would like it better. I definitely like the front one better. And it actually has, it's supposed to come from Vortex, but it actually says Bushwhacker on it, number 7. But a really good scope cover. The scope itself is the first Vortex I've ever owned, and now having shot it, I have to say this thing is awesome. For the price that you have to pay for it, you get a lot of scope considering the other options that are out there to equal the abilities that this one has. It's a Viper 4-16 by 50, and it is a MRAD reticle, MRAD turrets, and it is a first focal plane reticle. Now, if you've shot for scopes, you know anything about them, you'll know that if you go looking for a first focal plane scope, you're going to pay some money for it. In other words, what that means is set on 4 power, that reticle is one size, but when you start to increase your magnification, the reticle actually shrinks or grows in size, just like your image does. Now, what that means is when I'm measuring distance, yardage, with the reticle at 100 yards, and I zoom out, and I'm wanting to measure something at 100 yards again, or even 400 yards, or whatever it is, no matter what power zoom I'm on, that reticle is true MRAD. 400 yards on 16 power or 400 yards on 4 power. It's a true MRAD regardless. And so if you do much long range, you're going to need that. It just makes life easier for you. This is an illuminated reticle, and I like the way it's done. It has great, it has really good adjustments as far as illumination goes. I think it's to 10, I believe it is. But the wonderful thing about it is marked 1 through 10. But in between each one is an off position. So if you like it on 10 most of the time, you don't have to turn it all the way around to 0. Of course, most of the time it's just 1 click backwards. But say you like it on 5. You don't have to turn it all the way back to 0 to cut it off. You just click 1 time and it's off. So you got an off, 5, and then an off, and then a 4, and then an off, and then a 3, and an off. And it's just really nice, well thought out the way they did that. The knobs on it are truly a work of art as far as I'm concerned. I love the knurling that they put on them. The clicks are very positive. Listen. Very positive clicks. And it also does come from the factory with a 0 stop that's adjustable. They use a washer system. You slide them under the turrets and you're able to set your zero stop up. Once you have everything zeroed, you put that in. You can dial this bad boy all day long, and then when I want to go back to my 100-yard zero, I just turn it till it won't turn no more, and I'm set on my 100-yard zero. Another thing I noticed I like about it, I don't know if you can see right up here on the top of this turret, this is a little fiber optic, and it's also on the windage. No, it's not. I told you wrong. It's not. It's on the magnification dial. Now, it just helps you to find that setting. When you're dialing up or down or something, I mean, you look straight on. If you're in the shooting position, you're looking straight on those, and it really helps to see that point where, you know, where you're turning from. All right, let's move along here. Oh yes, as far as the scope goes, let me get back to this. The scope, I haven't used it hardly at all as far as holding over for my drop. I've been dialing up and down like crazy with this thing. I get out here and set up for a 100-yard shot, 200-yard shot, 300-yard shot, 400-yard shot, and I'm dialing up and down and dialing up and down and dialing up and down, and then I'm going back to my 100 and checking it, and the thing has tracked perfectly. I have no complaints. I was really shocked at how well it does. I actually own, and I'm not just talking up Vortex, like I said, it's the first one I've ever owned, but I own a Night Force scope, and I own Leopold scopes. And I would say, now the glass may not be quite as clear as a Night Force, but as far as the tracking goes, I can't complain at all. I cannot complain at all. Now let's look at the mount. Some of the guys have been asking about the mount because you see the clearance between that scope and that barrel. That's the way I like it, just as close as I can get it. This actually measures 1 3/4 inches off the center line of the bore. Now this is a, let's see if I can get that in there, DNZ mount, or dead nuts if you want to call it that. It's a one-piece mount, which I was adamant about wanting a one-piece mount. I actually bought a rail and scope rings, and it was a 20 MOA rail, because you know, shooting long range, you're going to have some cant to get your elevation out there to long ranges. But then I liked the one piece so good, I thought I'm gonna take that. I took that rail off, and I bought this. Now DNZ offers a one-piece mount that has a cant, 20 MOA cant in it, and I think they offer a 10 as well. I didn't opt to go for it because I couldn't find it for a reasonable price. The only place that I could find it was straight from DNZ, and the price was astronomical. So I actually bought the straight one-piece mount, and then I took a little backyard ingenuity here again. I actually took a closet rod and some sandpaper and put that sandpaper around that closet rod and wrapped it and held it tight, and then I took the mount and just slid it back and forth with a lot of pressure on the front side, and just kept going and kept going and kept going until I got the angle that I wanted. Now, what is that angle? As far as I can tell, it's about a 15 MOA. I was able to achieve that just by hand sanding. Now, this took some time. It's not something you're just going to go out there and do in 5 minutes. But basically what I did was I removed very little from this area of the mount, but I removed some material from the front side of the mount in order to cant it down. Now, I don't know if you can notice when looking at the scope itself, between the difference between the scope and the barrel, you can kind of see it from a distance. You can see it a little bit easier, that there is some cant to it, and it's worked out well with the adjustments that I have in it. I think I have about 15 MOA adjustment. Well, let's just see here. What do I have? There's 5, 10. I got 13 and a half. 13 and a half mils of adjustment, and then of course you got 5 or 6 in the reticle itself, but that's plenty to get me out past $1,000, so I'm happy with that. Now the muzzle brake that's on here, I believe that is, I'm not sure on this, but I believe it is a DPMS muzzle brake, and not necessary for a .308 rifle, but I just wanted something on there to protect my crown. I wanted to make sure that crown didn't get messed up. Now back here I installed this is a Voodoo Tactical cheek rest. It's very well done. I like it. I bought it because it matched the stock. But you know what? Once I got it, I realized I really like this thing. It comes with this little ammo pouch, and I don't think I have anything in it, but it just velcros on, and you can throw some shells in there if you need be. I think it'll hold about 6 or 7 there. But it does a really good job, and you can put it on either side, so it's left or right, whatever. And it comes with some foam in here, insert, and you can remove however much you need to get built up to what amount you need for your cheek riser. But it works really well also. Now back to the stock modification. Since I've done this rifle has just been a lot more of a pleasure to shoot. I mean, it was a nice shooting rifle before then, but now with I actually took and molded my fingers into it, and I've got another video out on that if you want to check it out if you're interested in doing something like that. I would suggest just cutting this completely straight off and don't leave it on there like I did, and I may do that before I paint the rifle. But anyway, I don't know what else to tell you guys. I do have a Vortex level on here on the optic just to help out a little bit. Now back to the point where everybody's most interested in probably is the accuracy. How accurate is this rifle? Savage claims a 1 MOA accuracy level for the PC10. That's not unheard of. 1 MOA is very reasonable, and it should be expected. As I mentioned earlier, I have not shot any factory rounds through this rifle, and so with factory ammo I'm not sure what it would do. But my experience with the rifle after I broke it in, until I got it broke in, I was actually considering sending the thing back to the factory. But after I've gotten it broke in, matter of fact, I think it was last weekend I had it out, I shot, and I got a video on that. I may roll some of that footage in at 375 yards, and I put 5 rounds into about an 1.5 inch group at 375 yards. Now, I'm not bragging, that's not me bragging, that's talking about how accurate this rifle is out the box. It can do that if you got the right loads, and if you do your part, the rifle will do its part. The 1 MOA accuracy, I don't know if they call it a guarantee or not, but I would almost say it's a half MOA, maybe, and with the hand loads even better than that. But if you're in a market for a Savage or any bolt gun for that matter, this definitely may be one you want to check out, because it has been a winner for me at least, and it has really done a great job. The only thing I would even change on it is the optic, and not because I don't like the optic. It's just my eyes aren't as strong as they used to be, and if you're going to shoot out to 1,000, 16 power may not be enough for you. And I kind of now wish I would have went with the I think they offer a 6-22 or something like that. A little bit more magnification would be nice, but it works well the way it is. And for most of my shooting around here is well within 400 or 500 yards, so there's plenty of magnification for that. I actually thought I went with this one because well, for hunting purposes, starting out at 4 power is not so hard to find your target, and if you're starting out at 6 or 8 power for a hunting gun, unless you're hunting at 1,000 yards or something, you may have trouble finding a target. Especially what if you have a deer walk out at 100 yards or 50 yards for that matter, or whatever it is that you're hunting. At 50 yards away in a high magnification scope, you're going to have trouble finding a target and then staying on the target. So I opted to go with a lighter, lower magnification for that reason. I don't regret it, but I think if I was actually going to build a long range precision gun, I would go with a higher magnification. Anyway, I hope that answers some of you guys' questions. I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed, and I can't think of anything, but if I do, I'll roll it into the comment section or something like that. Oh yeah, one other thing on the stock, I did fail to mention this. The butt pad, it comes on it from the factory, and the one that comes on here is really nice, and it does a great job taking out the recoil.